Well, good evening and welcome to Dome at Home for Thursday, September the 8th, 2022. Good to see you all. Hope you enjoyed summer. Most folks are back at school this week. I know my kids went for their first full day today and made for a little bit of a manic kind of week preparing. And so it's good to see so many folks here. Lots of, oh, hi, Jacqueline from Northwestern Ontario. Nice to see you. Lots of folks checking in from across Manitoba and across the country. Serge is here from Montreal. Lots of our regular folks there in the chat. Say hi. We love to know where you're from, how many people are watching, what's going on, if you got clear skies, that kind of stuff. And no matter what you're watching us on, whether it's on the museum's YouTube or Facebook channel, the chat goes back and forth. So you get to see everything, and that way, hopefully, I don't miss your questions. All right. I'm Scott. I'm the planetarium astronomer and your host for Dome at Home. We're broadcasting, here from Treaty 1 territory here in Winnipeg. And it's been kind of a day. Like I said, first day of school. I'm sure that all of you have heard of, the news of Queen Elizabeth's passing. Now, there's going to be piles of royal stuff coming in the news and things like that, so I won't get into a whole lot. But one of the things that struck me was that her reign started in 1955. That's before the first satellite was launched. So she has basically been the queen of the space age. The entire space age from the beginning has been, during Queen Elizabeth II's reign. So that's kind of interesting, and we'll have to see. It makes me think, well, what's gonna change in the next reign, like in that time period, where will we go from now that we couldn't possibly imagine? Let's see. Some of you will have got a chance to see the Northern Lights in the last little while. There was quite a bit of Northern Lights activity last week, and I did send out a couple of alerts through my Scott the Skywatcher page, and the next morning your social media was probably inundated with the various Northern Lights images and stuff like that. So if you missed it, you probably got to see it that way anyway. We do have a bunch of images that we're going to share with you here. Oh, thanks, Serge. Yeah, coronation was in 1952. That's right. In 1955, that's when they changed the coin design. And for some reason, that's what I think of when I think of her reign. Anyway, I used to be a coin collector. It was a pretty nice end of August for stargazers. We had a lot of great clear weather, and then we had that burst of solar activity which gave us basically the Northern Lights. And many of you got out to see it, and some of you got out and took some pictures. So we're going to start off with some of your images. So let's get right to that. Almost all of these pictures, interestingly, feature water in the foreground. I guess a lot of people were out at the lake or the beach or whatever, and that's because they were away from the city lights, they got to see them. But even from within the city, you could see them. This is by a friend of ours, Sabrina Yankee, and just a beautiful view. And you can actually also see there's a satellite. I thought it was a satellite at first, right in the center of the image here. It's actually an airplane, because when you zoom in, you can actually see the individual flashes of the strobe. But they had thought it was a satellite or a meteor. But just beautiful Northern Lights. And our manager of operations at the museum, Sean Workman, is one of the better aurora photographers that I know. And he was out at Grand Beach and caught it over the water there. And just the reflection off the water tells you kind of how bright the Northern Lights were. And just some great images. Another friend of mine, Alex Judge, caught this basically on Cordon Avenue. So right in the middle of a street with street lights and everything, they were able to see it visually and then even catch it just with their iPhone. So it was definitely some bright Northern Lights. And a lot of people got their chance to see it. In fact, one of my coworkers at work was saying that their husband and their kid were out at the lake, and it was their first time seeing the Northern Lights ever, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, and they were screaming and yelling, and they were just so excited to see them. Here's a shot that longtime viewers will remember our good friend Mike Jensen, who used to moderate the chat for us. And Mike managed to get just a quick iPhone shot of the Northern Lights. Again, partly a testament to how good modern cell phone cameras are, but also a testament to how bright these were. Another image from Peter Cantillon when he's out around Morden. So you've got some nice dark skies out there, and again, you can see the reflections on the water there. Just some beautiful, beautiful images. And here's James. James and Dale Buller have been watching the show for a long time. James has contributed some of their photographs here. Nice shot with the Big Dipper down low, just above the tree line and the Northern Lights there. And the North Star is actually just right up at the top of the frame there. So definitely earning the moniker of Northern Lights. You can see a little bit of reddish, sort of purple color underneath this sort of green curtain. That's a lot harder to see visually, but you can sometimes see it when it's nice and bright. And here's another shot taken just a little bit over to the side, and we're looking at, this is the constellation Perseus, all of these stars in here. So that's sort of that part of the sky. And this is down here is Capella, the bright star in Auriga the Charioteer. Just skims the northern the northern horizon at this time of the year, and so you wind up with a lot of Northern Lights shots from summertime will actually feature Capella. Let's see. Ooh, lots of folks checking in. Hollis from Connecticut. Hi, nice to see you. And oh, Tracy from St. Norbert. Nice to see you as well. And Menards from Kildonan. Hi, Linda from Vancouver. Oh my goodness, there's just so many people all saying hello. It's great to see you. Leonard's asking, how were my holidays, and did I get a chance to do some stargazing? You know, I did. I went to the White Shell for 5 days. We stayed in a cabin right on Jessica Lake. And when we got there, on the beach was this giant street light. And I thought, oh no, that's going to be terrible. But it never turned on. It was fantastic and beautifully dark. I filled both of my camera cards and the hard drive of my computer with images. So I haven't had a chance to process any of them, but there are lots of pictures, and we did a lot of just lying back and looking at the stars. The Milky Way was just tremendous. And actually, you'll see a couple of shots from my holidays in today's section on what's up in the September sky. Let's see. Oh, here's this is maybe one of my favorite shots that I saw so far. A friend of mine who's a teacher, their family were out at the lake, and they stayed up to see the Northern Lights and got this great shot with all three kids sort of just watching them silhouetted, and you've got the Pleiades over here, and there's Capella again, and just rising up over here is Mars, I guess, over here, and Aldebaran. So just a great shot. I love, I'd like to get a portrait of my family like this, but unfortunately, we didn't see the Northern Lights very much out in the White Shell. We saw them the very first night, but just the way things were positioned, they were behind some trees. So I did not get great Northern Lights pictures, but that's okay. I did see them a little bit from my backyard, and that's when I sent out those alerts, but I wasn't really equipped for or set up for pictures that night, so I didn't take any pictures. I just kind of watched them for a little bit. The rest of the family was asleep, and I didn't think they would be, they were good enough to disturb them for that. I'll wait for a brighter one, I guess. Anyway, Northern Lights have been really, really active, and it is just going to get better and better for the next year or so, because solar activity is on the rise. So we'll be able to see some of that stuff, and hopefully more and more Northern Lights will be visible. We'll do a special show on the Northern Lights coming up in September, and we're just getting our the rest of our schedule sort of lined up. I have the next 3 shows sort of confirmed, and I guess we should talk a little bit about our schedule. The show is now moving to a first and third Thursday of the month. We were going to do every second Thursday, and then that just became, is it this Thursday? Is it not this Thursday? It's hard to know whether it's on or not. So this way, the first Thursday of the month, the third Thursday of the month, we'll be doing Dome at Home. And the rest of the month, we're going to try and fit in some live events, some telescope views and things like that. But of course, those will be weather dependent. So that's going to be our schedule going forward. And so our next show after today will actually be the third Thursday of September, which is next Thursday. So we'll have 2 shows in a row. Okay, let me see. Yeah, lots of great comments to the photos. Linda's asking, how come we can see them so well in Manitoba and we can't see them on the west, and you can't see them on the West Coast? Part of the reason is, well, the main reason is that they're centered on the North Magnetic Pole, which is basically straight north of Manitoba, closer to us than it is to the West Coast. And so we're more often underneath the Northern Lights. So Manitoba's kind of occupies a very special place in the world, really. And that's why, Churchill and Gillam and places like that are tourist destinations for people all around the world to see the Northern Lights. The West Coast, of course, is also, you've got those big mountains that get in the way. You've got that horrible ocean that gives you all that humidity and things like that. You've got other benefits that we don't have here. But there have been reports of the Northern Lights sort of off to the West Coast. If you hear of the Northern Lights being visible down into the United States, that probably also means that around Vancouver, Victoria, areas like that, you'll have a good chance. Oh, somehow I wound up with the wrong phone down here. We have those wireless phones, and mine has the ringer shut off, so it doesn't do that, but it did. Okay, let me see. Do we have any more shots of no? Okay, that was our last image of the Northern Lights. If you get photos or images, always let us know, and we'd be happy to show them on the show. Now, last show, we tried to do something new. We tried to bring on our special guest, Ulrike Schreckenbach, who is one of our binocular experts in the audience, and has been submitting images and been a friend of the show right from the beginning, basically. And we had all sorts of audio problems. So I took a crash course in audio production, and I think we got it all worked out. So I'm going to bring on Ulrike here, and hopefully she'll be able to present to us her binocular challenge for September. Hi, Ulrike.
Hello, Scott. Hi, everyone.
Excellent. I can hear you. I hope everyone out there can hear you too.
Okay.
Okay, so why don't you take it away? Tell us a little bit about your challenge, and then we can go from there.
Scott, I would like to focus on the first part of the word, the binoculars first, and I want to show you something. I was at a thrift store the other day, and this one was in a glass door cabinet with this one package to go with it. And I looked at it, and the attendant said, "Do you want to take a look?" And I said, "Yes, sure." And I got the binoculars and I looked at them, and it says Carl Zeiss Jena. Now, Carl Zeiss is, as you know, the name in optics. And I couldn't resist, so I got an 80 by 30 Carl Zeiss binoculars for the total of $8. You can't beat that, right?
Oh. Yeah, I mean, the Zeiss Optics is fantastic. That's the company Zeiss Jena built our planetarium star projector as well.
Oh yeah, and I have a special soft spot for Jena as well. If you hop in Jena on the Autobahn and go 101 kilometers west, you're at my hometown in Germany.
Oh, excellent. Well, it was meant to be.
It was definitely meant to be a little piece of the old home country. But the binocular challenge. So we are not going to look at the deep sky object. We are going to look at an asterism. And we have talked about before how people always try to find things on Earth reflected in the sky. And it's not just the old culture people who did it, like the modern people do it too. So the object we are going to look at in the sky is can you see it?
Yep.
It's a coat hanger. But we're not going to see it this way. We are more going to see it this way, upside down.
All right. Well, let's get to our images here. And
all righty. And the nice thing is there are two ways to verify its position, and we are going to start with the summer triangle. So perfect timing on top of everything. So in the summer triangle at the left, we have Deneb for the swan of the Northern Cross. And then to the right, we have Vega, right from the Lyra. And down below is Althea from the eagle, right? So we are going to start at Deneb. And then we go along the Northern Cross to the very last star. And there we stop for a second. And now we turn right a little bit, just a little bit, maybe 20 degrees or so, and then go again in a straight line until we reach another, about there, another bright star. And in binoculars, it shows that it's not a single star, it's a double star. And once we have found that star, we can continue in that direction, and we are going to land at the coat hanger.
It really does look like a coat hanger upside down, just the way you showed it. It's uncanny.
And you can see it very well also in small binoculars. Ideal, I found, is the 10 by 50 for that. Like in my 20 by 80s, there is, I don't get the whole picture anymore. So 10 by 50 optimum, smaller ones really fine, larger ones, And if we can go back to the summer triangle, there is another way of finding it. So when we are starting at Vega on the right-hand side and then go down towards Altair, roughly 3/4 of the way, and then just a wee little bit to the left, there is the coat hanger as well.
So that's pretty straightforward to find, actually. Those two different ways can help you sort of verify that you're in the right spot. And it is so distinctive. I actually, based on your discussion, I took a look at it with my binoculars when I was out at the lake, and it really does jump out of the background, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. It's like this nice combination, and they are really all nice bright stars, and they have also all the same light. So it's not like that one is blue and one is orange or so. And I think all having the same light makes for a stronger impression as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, that's excellent. So there's our binocular challenge for this month. Thank you very much, Ulrike, for providing that, and I hope to be able to show either some images or some sketches or tell some stories of people tracking it down sometime in September. So thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. That was great. I hope all the audio came through with that. That was great. Thank you so much, Ulrike. It's great to have somebody else do some of the work, quite frankly. And I mean, you really are the one of the binocular experts in the group, so it's nice to get that perspective. Now we do have for those of you that might not have caught all of that, we do have a downloadable star chart of basically how to find the coat hanger in binoculars. You can find this on the Dome at Home website, and basically just gives you a nice little star chart with the summer triangle, and the circles are one field of view of typical binoculars. If you got the more powerful ones, then you probably will have, your circle is essentially smaller. So you just have to keep that in mind. But we did it for sort of the common binoculars. So you can download that from our site. And every time Ulrike brings us a binocular challenge, we'll make sure we get some star charts ready. And I'm glad to hear, Stan, thank you, that the audio was perfect, because I would have been very disappointed if it was just me talking to myself again. So, all right. Let us know what you thought about Ulrike's presentation. And if you have ideas for something you'd like to see on the show, or something you'd like to do on the show, drop us a line. You can always reach us at space@manitobamuseum.ca, or you can reach us through the various social media places. Wherever you're watching this, leave a comment or send a message. And we'd like to do more of these features where we have other people come and do stuff on the show. All right. Our feature for this this show was to look at the September sky and the events that are coming up in September. And a question here. Tiffany is asking, where is it in the sky? So the summer triangle is pretty much straight overhead and to the south when it gets dark. So Vega is almost directly overhead, the brightest star straight up, and Altair is down towards the south, and then Deneb is off towards the left. So it kind of looks like a slice of pizza with the narrow, pointy, triangular end pointing down towards the southern horizon. Let's see. Oh, Melissa was just chiming in with a story about the summer triangle. Oh yeah, Deneb is definitely not, it's the faintest of the three. And so it's the one that really you need a pretty decent sky to be able to see it. You won't see it in early twilight. Vega jumps out right away because it's just so bright, but Deneb is the faintest. And there is a reason for that. Deneb is also the farthest away of the three stars. Now each of those stars, let me just bring back our summer triangle image here. Often we do chat about star distance and things like that. Actually, we'll even go back one more, back to the main image here. So here's our summer triangle. We've got Vega over here, brightest, Altair kind of medium, and then Deneb, faintest of the three. Well, Altair is the closest. It's only 16 light years away, so that, relatively speaking, is pretty close. And so it's not bright in our sky because it's a big star. It's bright because it's nearby. Vega actually is a bright star, but it's also relatively close to us. It's 50 light years away. So it's brighter because it's still reasonably close, but it's also a hotter, brighter, larger star. Deneb over here is actually quite a large star, but it's the faintest of the three. That's because it is the farthest. It's 1,600 light years away, plus or minus. So, you know, when you're looking at Altair, you're looking at light that is 16 years old. So if you're 16, the light that you see tonight from Altair has been traveling your whole life, basically. Same thing, 50, Vega. If the light's been traveling for 50 years. The light from Deneb has been traveling 1,600 years to reach us. So I don't know if that makes it a little more special when you actually see it, that, you know, the light itself is older, but it's cool to think about the depth of the sky. It's not a bunch of dots all at the same distance. So that is why the Deneb's a little bit fainter, because it is so much farther away. Oh yes, and Griffith Observatory you went to visit. We'll have to chat. I'd love to hear about the Griffith Observatory down in LA. It's you've seen it in movies. They shoot anything that's in Hollywood where they need like an outdoor view of Los Angeles. They go up to Griffith Observatory and shoot the movie there. So very, very cool. All right, let me get to our other set of images here, because we wanted to take a look at what's up in the sky. And for September, the story really is the planets. You know, we've been talking about the planets for months, and they've been in the morning sky. Now they're up in the evening. And I mean, Saturn reached opposition last month. This was my shot of Saturn, just with a wide-angle lens on my camera from last week. And even from a nice flat lake, you can see the problems that I have with trees. Basically, one of the only trees that there was in the area was right in the direction of Saturn. And so I had to wait for it to clear the tree before I could see it. Saturn is still down low. It's over in the southern sky, not super bright, brighter than the stars, but it doesn't really jump out. But Saturn, of course, the planet with the rings, if you've got a telescope, you want to take a look at it because it really is spectacular. Then there's Jupiter. Jupiter does jump out. This is Jupiter rising basically as soon as it got dark over in the eastern sky. You can actually see that it's so bright that it's casting its reflection on the lake. I had never seen that before. We were in a very dark location without too many other lights. And Jupiter is so bright, it casts a shadow. Like if you hold up a piece of white paper, and then you put your hand in front of it, you can see that Jupiter's light itself is casting a shadow because it's so bright. It is at its brightest point coming up this month, basically, and it is also at its brightest point for a number of years. Jupiter reaches what we call opposition this month on September 26th, which means it's opposite the sun, which means it rises as the sun sets. It's visible all night, and it doesn't set until sunrise. So we've got all night to see it. And it is rising because the sun is setting earlier. It is rising fairly early in the evening. I was able to basically, as soon as it gets dark, which is around 8:45 now, you can see Jupiter, unless you have trees like I do from my backyard. I have to wait till about 10:30 before I can see it. But Jupiter is one of the highlights right now. It is a great binocular object. You can see the moons of Jupiter through binoculars, through high-power binoculars. You can even see the planet itself is a disk. It's not just a star, but it's got some size to it. And through a telescope, of course, you can see the Great Red Spot and cloud bands and things like that. We've got some events coming up in September and into October to focus on the planets and to do some live planet observing. And so even if you don't have your own telescope, you'll be able to get a chance to see Jupiter up close. And then the third bright planet is Mars. Mars is just beginning its visibility. It's still far from us, and it's still not as bright as it will be, but it's starting to rise earlier, and it's right in a beautiful part of the sky. This is the constellation Taurus. So there's Mars in the center. Here's the Hyades, the V-shaped face of Taurus the bull. That's a star cluster. And then up here, of course, the famous Seven Sisters or Pleiades. Mars is right between them. And so very photogenic part of the sky. And as the month goes on, Mars will basically move from near the head of Taurus to down over here towards the tip of the horns of Taurus the bull, over to this area here. So it's going to be a great spot to watch Mars, and over the month it'll get closer and brighter, and towards the end of the year, that's when it's going to be at its best and brightest. So now's the time to start watching it and seeing how it changes over time. If you have a telescope, Mars can still be pretty disappointing. It's still quite small, but it will be getting better and better. So if you start observing Mars now and getting your brain used to looking at a tiny orange dot through an eyepiece, by the time it gets closer and at its best, your eyes will have already done that training, and your brain will already be prepared to do that image processing that will let you see more. So if you've got a telescope, definitely start looking at Mars now. Now, there are a few other things that are happening in the course of the sky. Tonight, actually, the moon is going to be close to Saturn. So let's just look at today's sky. This is the sky tonight at 9 o'clock. And so you've got Saturn over here, and there's the not quite full, very, very large gibbous moon rising just after it. And there's Jupiter over there. So still in the same area of the sky. This is where all my trees, or all my neighbor's trees are. But if you can see that part of the sky, you'll have a good view. Coming up on the, tomorrow night, there's an event happening that I'll tell you about in a moment. It's not an event in the sky, but it's a really cool one anyway. On Saturday the 10th, the moon is going to be over by Jupiter, and the same on the 11th. Basically, on the 10th, it's on one side. On the 11th, it'll be over on the other side. And of course, as the two of them rise, that will become more and more visible all night. Thursday the 15th, we have another Dome at Home show. We'll talk about that. Friday the 16th, the planet Neptune is at opposition. Now, Neptune is actually in between Jupiter and Saturn in the sky right now. Just going to zoom in here, and every time the moon comes into my field of view, it makes it hard to see. Neptune is this tiny little dot, and it really is like you can see it in binoculars if you know exactly where to look and which of the tiny little dots in your field of view is it. But you need a pretty detailed star chart like we have with Stellarium here. Even in a telescope, it looks like a bluish, slightly bigger than a star dot. It's really not something that amateurs get a lot of viewing of. But if you have a telescope, and particularly if you have a telescope with a camera on it, this is basically the best time to start imaging Neptune, because it does have some moons, and I've actually seen some amateur images of Neptune that have actually become pretty impressive, because these modern little CMOS cameras, the little eyepiece cameras you put in your telescope, are incredibly powerful for the cost. I mean, they're a couple $100 piece of gear, so it's not cheap, but compared to a full DSLR digital camera or a CCD camera or a specialized astronomy camera, those can be thousands of dollars. A couple $100 is relatively inexpensive, and they're producing amazing images. So if you have a telescope, you might want, and you're interested in planets, you might want to look at that kind of stuff. We will be running our Observing the Planets course this fall. That was the one topic we didn't do in the spring because there were basically no planets visible. So we're going to do that in the fall, and we'll also be running through the planetarium another version or another rendition of all the other courses. So if you missed our astronomy courses, our Dome at Home astronomy courses in the spring, you can sign up for them and check them out in the fall. And those dates should be hitting the museum's website probably around the third week of September. All right, so that's got us halfway through the month. The moon continues to chunk along in the sky, and by the 17th, the day after Neptune's opposition, it's come to last quarter, and it's over there by Mars. So this is actually the night of the 16th. You've got the Seven Sisters, the almost last quarter moon, the Hyades, and Mars, all perfectly in a nice small area of sky. So that'd be a great photo opportunity. The planet Uranus is over here. It's coming to opposition, in a couple of months, so we'll talk more about it then. And on the 17th, the moon is a little farther from the star clusters, but it's closer to Mars. So either of those nights would make a nice opportunity to get some sky photos, kind of like the one that I had here. The third week of September, we come up to the autumn equinox, the official beginning of fall. Not that that matters at all to the weather. I mean, depending on where you live, maybe you're already in fall, or maybe fall will not be till October. But officially, the Earth hits that part of its orbit at 8:04 p.m. on the 23rd of September. And so you'll hear, the first day of spring, astronomically speaking, I guess. Then we've got new moon on the 25th, and then the 26th is Jupiter's opposition. Now, the day of opposition for Jupiter is not any better than the day before or the day after. It's not like one event that happens and if you blink, you'll miss it kind of thing. Jupiter's almost as good today as it will be at the end of the month for opposition. But we're going to try and get a clear night close to opposition and do some telescope stuff, both live streamed, but also in person. I'm working on a couple of different potential venues that could accommodate, a reasonable sized group of folks to get together with some telescopes and see Jupiter at opposition. And of course, we'll also look at Saturn and whatever else is up. So that'll be towards the end of the month, just having to get the venue details sorted out. And as soon as I get all that figured out, hopefully by the next show next week, we'll let you all know so that we could get together and do some stargazing together. That would be fun. So that brings us through September. There's a lot of planet events. There's not much else going on. There's no major meteor showers. There's no eclipses or any of that kind of stuff. There are a couple of other sort of niche events that aren't visible here, so we won't even get into them. But there's our Manitoba Skies column on the museum's website has a list of all the different items and things that are going on. But those cover the main highlights, except for the Northern Lights. Those are the things that can come out of nowhere, can happen with very little warning. They might be forecast in advance, they might not. Generally what happens is the first night comes out of nowhere and people are like, oh, the Northern Lights. And then people make forecasts saying, oh, well, tonight might be almost as good. And then it never is. So while I'd like to be able to say we can, be ready for it, really what it comes down to a little bit is some luck. You have, like, the more time you spend under the sky, the more likely you're going to see a good display of Northern Lights. So, you've got all of these events coming up in the sky. We've got the fall constellations. We've got Ulrike's binocular challenge. So you've got lots of excuses to get out under the sky and to, be out there. And so then when the Northern Lights hit, you'll be already out there and ready to go. All right, now it is time for
Cool Space Stuff!
So I think this is cool space stuff. The Artemis 1 rocket did not launch. Both times we got ready for a live broadcast. And in fact, by the time we went live on one of them, they had already scrubbed. And then on the second one, we went live and followed the countdown for a little bit, and then they had to scrub. They were having issues with the fuel tank, the hydrogen fuel having some leaks and things like that. That's a problem, obviously, because hydrogen is extremely explosive, and the last thing you want to do is launch a rocket through a cloud of leaked hydrogen. So they weren't quite sure what to do. They've decided, as of yesterday, that they're going to actually try and repair this on the launch pad without rolling it all the way back to the vehicle assembly building, the big hangar. That's kind of a surprise. Like, I don't know if you haven't been to Cape Canaveral. Basically, it's the Florida beach, and so if you're opening up a complicated piece of plumbing, you really don't want sand blowing around in there. So they're going to erect a temporary structure, and they're going to try and fix it out at the pad, put in new seals and so on, and then they can test it with the super cold hydrogen and oxygen. And if that fixes it, they will be able to try and launch again in the next launch window, September 19th. Now that requires some other stuff. It requires the folks at the range to basically grant Artemis an extension to a few things. Basically, it's got a self-destruct package on it in case it happens to, fly towards Miami by accident or something like that. They can blow it up rather than let it crash into a populated area. Those things run on batteries, and the batteries are only certified for 25 days. And 25 days from the time they rolled it out there runs out in a couple of days. So we expect they're going to ask for a special exemption. I don't know. I kind of, we'll see what happens in the next couple of days. I kind of think they're going to have to roll it back and bring it back out. This is the kind of thing that might take months before they actually get ready to get it off the ground again. But you never know. We'll have to see. So it is going to be cool when it goes. It will be the largest rocket ever launched by the Americans, and hopefully the largest rocket ever launched successfully. There was the Russian N-1 rocket did have more horsepower, raw power to it, but it only got a few minutes off the ground before exploding several times, and so that one doesn't count. Okay, so that's Artemis 1. And then we also have a new James Webb picture. This is the Tarantula Nebula in the Large Magellanic Cloud. This is not a nebula like the Orion Nebula in our galaxy. This is in a whole nother galaxy. So we're getting this incredible detail of something that is really far away. And there's a nice little star cluster in there, and just the level of detail. Again, this is one of those ones you want to download at full resolution and zoom way in on and see the incredible detail. It is just a lovely image. The Tarantula Nebula is very close to where supernova 1987A occurred. That was a supernova in the Large Magellanic Cloud, the brightest one since the invention of the telescope, basically. And it was discovered by Winnipegger Ian Shelton. And so that was a big deal. And so whenever you see pictures of supernova 1987A, there's the supernova, the big bright star, and then right close to it is the Tarantula Nebula. We've never seen it like this, though, so this is really impressive. Speaking of James Webb, tomorrow night is the meeting of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada Winnipeg Centre, which sounds like a really big, important sounding name. Basically, it's Winnipeg's Astronomy Club, and it's a member of Canada's Astronomy Club, the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. It's chapters all across the country. Their meeting is tomorrow night, beginning at 7 o'clock, and it'll be one of the first meetings that has been back in person. It's held at the University of Manitoba, but it will also stream online. And what's cool is that at 7 o'clock, there's the beginner session, which is a half-hour session on some sort of very basic beginner-level information on the sky or whatever the topic is. And then at 7:30, we'll have a special guest speaker, which is Martin Bergeron from the Canadian Space Agency, and he will be talking about the James Webb Space Telescope and Canada's role in the instruments, and also talking about some of the research that's going on by Canadians using that. So that's going to be really cool. You don't have to be a member to watch it. You can just go to the RASC's website, which I'll just drop in chat here, which is pretty easy to find. And you can go to their Facebook page and their YouTube channel, which again is RASC Winnipeg Center will be the Facebook page, and it'll stream live there. That's starting at 7 o'clock for the beginner session, 7:30 for the Martin Bergeron presentation. And if you're interested, you can also go down to the University of Manitoba in St. John's College. That's where their meeting is. Anyway, all that's on the website. But if you like the idea of, other people that like doing astronomy, maybe the Astronomy Club is something you might want to be interested in. It's actually a great group of people. There's over 200 members from all walks of life. There's, 10-year-olds, there's 90-year-olds, there's everybody in between. And some people are hardcore astrophotographers, and other people are just starting out with, I might want to buy a telescope. What do I do? And then we've got armchair observers, and we've got people interested in archaeoastronomy, and there's citizen scientists, all sorts of stuff. It's a great group. So check that out if you're club inclined, and it is a wonderful group to be a part of. Let me see here. What else do we have? I think that brings us to the end of our show. So we had the chance to see some of those great aurora shots. If you've got some, I'd love to show some more, and I'll try and get some of my summer pictures together as well by next week. We're going to be spending a little bit of time looking at the DART mission next week on the 15th. DART is the Direct Asteroid Redirect Test, or something like that. Basically, it's a spaceship that is going to go and smash into an asteroid to see if we can change its course. We'll one day maybe want to do that if there's an asteroid that threatens us. This asteroid does not threaten us, and in fact, it's also not one that we can accidentally divert into the Earth because it's a double asteroid. And the spacecraft will basically hit the moon of the asteroid, and so the worst that could happen is that the orbit of the moon changes around the asteroid. So anyway, it's totally safe, but it'll be really interesting to see what happens. That happens on September 26th. And there will be a NASA live stream because basically we will watch the camera all the way in as it crashes into this asteroid. That's going to be our feature for next week. Thank you to all the folks who sent in images this time around, as well as our usual partners and Stellarium for the software and things like that. And thank you to our special guest Ulrike, who did a great job on her first binocular challenge, and hopefully we'll see many more of those. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Hopefully you'll get some clear skies, and if not, we'll get together next week and talk a little bit more about astronomy. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night, and hopefully we'll see you soon.